then guys, on Xavi Simons, today some messages from the player, removing Red Bull Leipzig from his Instagram bio, so quite a clear message. Someone said, but no, this is not a transfer message, it is a transfer message. Xavi Simons wants to go. Xavi Simons doesn't extend the contract. 2 years left on his contract. He's not going to sign a new deal. So he's sending quite a clear message. He doesn't want to stay at Leipzig. He wants to go. Chelsea are in very advanced talks over personal terms, as I always told you. So it's not a problem. Xavi Simons wants to go to Chelsea, for sure. So now the two clubs remain in direct contact. The two highest people at the club on both sides, Red Bull Group and Chelsea, discussing on the transfer fee. The negotiation continues. Then, of course...
Obviously then, they've been active in the transfer market, they always are, but by selling players as well as buying this time, certainly. Mike, in terms of coming in, what else are Chelsea wanting to do?
Well, they want Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho before the window closes. Now, they're confident and the discussions are going on. And what the key is, there are good relations between the two clubs. We know Alejandro Garnacho doesn't really have a future at Manchester United, and Manchester United looking to spend big, which we've been talking about. But of course, they've agreed with UEFA to balance their spending this summer. They made some big signings, João Pedro and Leandro Lapa, as you mentioned as well, but plenty of outgoings as well. So it was interesting, this mini window before the Club World Cup, and of course, it's been a brilliant few months for Enzo Maresca. Champions League qualification, they won the Conference League. Yes, they're expected to win it, but they won it. And then this Club World Cup, it's been a great few months for him. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on now they've returned to training this week.
And Dan, there's lots of players who, because Chelsea have been selling quite well, haven't they? We were talking about that yesterday, but there are players who went on loan last season. They don't seem to be expected to be involved this season. Ben Chilwell, Axel Disasi, Raheem Sterling is a big one as well. How hard is it for a player when you're contracted to a club, but it doesn't look like you've got a future at that club?
Yeah, it's really tough. I think those three definitely will be looking to get out at some stage. Where, I don't know. Obviously, Disasi was on loan at Aston Villa. Whether they would take him back, I'm not sure. I mean, even Bournemouth, they're definitely looking for defenders after losing Kerkez, Dean Huijsen, possibly even Zabani. He's been with Paris Saint-Germain for a long time. So, yeah, Alex Disasi is one to watch. But, yeah, Sterling and Chilwell, they'll want to get out and play. They're competitors. They want to play football. Again, the last couple of seasons hasn't gone to plan for those two guys, but two really good players, and whatever club they end up will certainly help them.
But when we talk about their selling, Mike, we have for a number of windows now talked about how much Chelsea spend. But in fairness, when they do spend big on a player, they don't tend to lose too much money on them. It's not like they overpay for someone and they leave for free in 5 or 6 years' time. No, these players, if they're not wanted anymore, they're going for pretty much at least what they spent on them.
Yeah, and a key example is going to be, talking about Everton shortly, and Keenan Dewsbury Hall, who's barely kicked a ball for Chelsea last season. It looks like they're going to recoup a bit of most of the money for them. So look, there was a lot on Enzo Maresca a season ago. People weren't sure how it was going to go, but as I go back to, I think it's been a big success. I think Champions League qualification, Club World Cup. You can't do much more than that, can you?
Yeah, no, he's been brilliant since he's come in. It was a tough job to come in, and sort of there were so many players. They were still buying players. But now I feel like they've really got a settled squad. I know there's still one or two to come in, but they've got so much competition for places. I mean, they've probably got two world-class players in every position at the moment. I still would say the goalkeeper is the main issue there now. I think obviously the number 9, everyone was talking about it, but they've got 3. They've got Nicholas Jackson there as well, who potentially might leave, but if he stays, I'm sure he's going to play a lot of football along with João Pedro, who I think is an unbelievable world-class player, and then Liam Delap as well coming on the back of that. So they got plenty of options. Even the Jamie Gittins on the left side, fantastic player from Dortmund. No one's really seen much of him as yet, but yeah, they've got really good talented squad.
But there's been a lot of talk about Nicholas Jackson and his future at Chelsea. First things first, he's got 8 years left on his Chelsea contract.
That's a great point. He has.
8 years. So Chelsea hold the cards. And they'll be saying, well, actually, for a player of this quality and this calibre, look at Hugo Ekitike, look at his record, look at what he's done. He's going to Liverpool for £79 million. So as far as we're concerned, Nicholas Jackson, who's been playing in a better league, in a tougher league, and scoring goals, actually, he's probably worth £80 to £100 million. So if Chelsea were to sell Nicholas Jackson...
That's a lot of money.
It's a huge amount of money, but you couldn't argue against that based on the market value for other players during this summer's window. You could argue that Nicholas Jackson is a better player than Hugo Ekitike. He's played Premier League football. He scored more goals. His record's been fairly solid at Chelsea. Last season, 10 goals in 5 assists in 30 games. The season before that was 14 goals in 35 games and 5 assists.
80 to 100 million, Mark. They're having a laugh.
You having a laugh?
They're having a laugh. Come on, surely.
That's where they're at. Chelsea have the ability to say, this is what we value the player at. And if you've got teams from Saudi Arabia, teams from Europe, maybe other Premier League teams, and I'll tell you one of the other Premier League teams that have an interest in Nicholas Jackson, it's Manchester United. then you're actually saying, well, you pay 70 plus for Rasmus Højlund, 80 million for Nicholas Jackson. That's not unreasonable. That's the market value for those types of players at that type of age at the moment.
But listen up, Manchester United and Chelsea fans, what do you make of this? The two clubs are considering a swap deal involving Alejandro Garnacho and Christopher Nkunku.
According to Sky in Germany, there is no final decision, but it is something that has been discussed. Manchester United have also been in discussions with Napoli over a transfer for Garnacho. He's a pair of Chelsea.
Keep on playing well in the next pre-season matches, and just hope that he does enough to show that when a new striker does come, which obviously seems the way things are going, that he is able to compete for that top position up front.
Let's have a little look at the back page of the Star. Let's stay with strikers. In fact, that is simply the headline, back page of the Star. How Waiter's rebel pair train alone. Isak and Wissa step up, push for two moves. Obviously, for Isak, potentially away, and for Wissa, potentially in at St James's Park. How likely do you think it is, Jonathan, that we get either or potentially both of these moves happening before the deadline, especially if they're starting to agitate a little bit in this sense?
Yeah, I saw one story saying that Newcastle weren't going to let Isak go until they'd signed two replacement strikers, and at the rate that Newcastle have been doing deals this window, that means Isak's probably there for another 4 or 5 years at least. They obviously want Wissa. I think they see Wissa as more of a Callum Wilson replacement. I think the problem for Isak in terms of, I may have said this last week, in terms of getting the move that he so clearly wants out of Newcastle, is that none of the teams that he would realistically move to and would be able to pay the sort of fee that Newcastle are demanding have to sign a striker before the end of the window. Liverpool obviously have done their business. Arsenal have done their business. It's hard to see too many other suitors for him. So that is going to make it harder for Isak to get his move this window, because it's not a situation where Newcastle can put another club over a barrel and say you need this guy, and you're going to pay what we demand, because that simply isn't the case. The fact that Newcastle are obviously going to want probably two replacements before they let him go does complicate matters, because frankly there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of decisiveness and positive action behind the scenes at Newcastle this summer, and that is what slowed things down. That's clearly what has frustrated Isak so much.
Where do you see the futures of these two that are pictured in the back page of the Star then, Ihsan? As Andrew Isak, do you agree probably to stay at St James's Park and therefore Wissa not able to come in, or what do you think?
It's hard to say, but with the way this is rumbling on, it does seem as though Liverpool have a real shot at getting Isak before this window closes. Eddie Howe, of course, recently said how Isak wasn't on this pre-season tour of Asia for Newcastle because of a thigh strain, but then just the other day he says that he has no control over Isak's future, and it's very bizarre that he's training now with Real Sociedad, which is obviously his previous club. He's using their facilities, which you can't imagine Newcastle will be too pleased with. So in terms of direction, it does seem as though something could arise from this, and Liverpool have already tentatively, from an informal aspect, registered their interest in